The Scarlet Letter by Bailey and Heidi.
The Custom House.
In the custom house, the speaker was in an attic, looking through old boxes.
While looking through the boxes, the speaker found a manuscript that Jonathan Pugh wrote along with the Scarlet Letter.
End of boring, unimportant stuff.
The Scarlet Letter took place in the 17th century Salem, Massachusetts, where the crude Puritans lived.
When Hester and her husband left Europe, they were to meet up in Salem, but he never arrived. Dun dun dun.
Salem had a big prison which had rose bushes by the big wooden door.
This prison housed Hester because she was an adulteress along with other people who committed sins.
Hester was sent to the scaffold as punishment to stand in front of the angry mob of Puritans who hated her for her sins.
Hester's long-lost husband finally shows up after being missing for several years and is confused as to why Hester is wearing an A and has a baby because he knows it isn't his.
Her husband secretly tells her to keep her mouth shut about his true identity because he wants to keep it a secret to save his wife. Ha, not.
Dimmesdale and other elders in charge of the town came to the scaffold to get answers out of Hester because they needed to know who she committed the sin with, which of course she refused to answer.
Chillingworth came to the jail cell Hester was in to give the baby medicine, which Hester was at first skeptical about, but she eventually allowed him to give the child the medicine.
Chillingworth then speaks of enacting revenge on the person whom committed adultery with his wife and says he will find out who he is whether she tells him or not.
Spoiler!
Dimmesdale is the sinner whom Hester committed the sin of adultery with, whom is the minister. Talk about hypocrisy.
Dimmesdale is ashamed with himself for committing these sins, so he tortures himself with a whip.
Dimmesdale and Chillingworth are staying in the same house.
One night, Chillingworth finds a mark on Dimmesdale's chest while he was sleeping. The mark was similar to Hester's letter A, but burned into his flesh.
Dimmesdale, who was distraught with himself, walks into the town and howls like a madman, which was assumed to be witches flying in the sky by the townspeople.
Hester and Pearl came upon Dimmesdale on the scaffold torturing himself. While they are standing there, a meteor streaks the sky with a red A. Surprise, surprise!
Hester goes to talk to Chillingworth to get him to stop punishing Dimmesdale, but he refuses. No surprise there.
Hester and Dimmesdale meet up in the woods to avoid Chillingworth.
Hester and Dimmesdale decided to escape to Europe.
Hester removes the Scarlet Letter partway through their conversation, and in response, Pearl throws a tantrum because she doesn't realize her mother without it on.
Dimmesdale gives the best speech ever to the people of Salem for a holiday, the day before him and Hester are to leave for Europe.
Chillingworth learns of Dimmesdale and Hester's plan to escape to Europe and buys a ticket on the same ship so he can continue with his revenge schemes.
Dimmesdale found Pearl and Hester on top of the scaffold and joined them to announce he was the sinner and Pearl was his daughter.
As Pearl kisses Dimmesdale in front of the town, he falls over dead.
Chillingworth dies soon after Dimmesdale does because of his frustration in not obtaining the revenge he wanted, and left all of his wealth and property to Pearl.
Several years later,
Hester returns to Salem later on in life, still wearing the Scarlet Letter, but now no one knows what it stands for.
There are rumors that Pearl has become well-behaved and married off to a respectable man.
Hester dies after several years of living back in Salem. She is buried next to Dimmesdale, and their graves are marked by a single gravestone with a scarlet A. How ironic.
The end.